How to Stay True to Yourself, the Jimmy Butler, 30 Before 30, Lesson 16. This shot on October 29th, 2018 will always be burned into my retinas as the moment I became a fan of Jimmy Butler. You know that SAT prompt that asks what's more important, talent or hard work? I will always choose hard work. Jimmy Butler's story, the Jimmy Butler, is that of a true underdog, one that tirelessly works through all obstacles to reach success. You may have only clicked on this video because Jimmy Butler is a superstar in the NBA, getting paid a max contract by the Miami Heat. But when he was only 13 years old, he was kicked out of his home by his mother because she did not like the look of him.
My mom kicked me out of my house, to tell the truth, and I bounced in and out of guys' houses in high school. And
this is beyond humble beginnings, and it speaks for itself. Jimmy Butler did not have the same path as a typical NBA star. AAU tournaments, one and done in college, and the NBA draft. He had to struggle every step of the way, through navigating homelessness at 13 years old to proving himself at junior college to transfer to D1 school, and then working his ass off at Marquette to get a spot in the NBA draft. When Jimmy was drafted to the NBA by the Chicago Bulls as the 30th pick, he was at the bottom of the roster and only got minutes during garbage time. It was then on the Bulls that he continued to grind tirelessly to get better and eventually earning himself Most Improved Player in the entire NBA. If we stopped here, it would be a pretty sick story, but this isn't even the half of it. From here on out, Jimmy would begin a very difficult time in the NBA, where he would be traded from team to team, being labeled as a locker room cancer. Jimmy had a lot of problems with each team, and he would be very open and honest about his issues. Most notably, when he was on the Timberwolves, he was frustrated with the lack of work ethic and drive to win that had drove him to have an emotional outburst during practice as he played with the third string team, beating the starters. He had this interview set up right after the infamous practice, and he just began to confirm all the details of what had happened at this practice. This was like telling your boss, your boss's boss, and all of your coworkers straight to their face that they suck and they need you because they are useless without you. Like incredibly savage.
no, because you got to be honest. I'm being honest. Do I think so? No, I'm being honest with you. But is everybody going to be honest? No.
I didn't know about this drama at the time because I had only recently started getting into basketball in 2018, but this is the reason why I like Jimmy Butler so much. For years, as he went from the Bulls to the Timberwolves to the 76ers and finally to the Miami Heat, he was dragged by the media for being a problem and a bad teammate. But throughout this, he remained true to himself. There's so many times when I wish I had the courage to speak up and be honest. Whether or not Jimmy went about it the right way is not for me to decide, but I can tell for sure he is honest. It clarifies a lot of things because instead of silently fuming, holding your tongue, you put your truth out there and you quickly figure out if things can change for the better or you need to move on from your situation. When Jimmy ultimately signed with the Heat, I was surprised because I did not understand why he would leave the stacked 76ers to basically start anew with the Heat. But Jimmy knew something that none of us knew, himself. He knew that he had that dog in him, and the Heat were some dogs too.
We got some dogs, and I love it. I love every bit of it.
Jimmy has been balling out for the past 5 years, reaching the NBA Finals 2 times and the Eastern Conference Finals 3 times. However, Jimmy Butler certainly is not the best player in the NBA, but he's the best leader in the NBA. He leads by example. He elevates everyone around him. He is the hardest working player on his team, and every one of his teammates knows that. So they try their best because they know that none of his success was handed to him. He has stayed true to himself and remained humble through every obstacle. I think a lot of the time we put a lot of blame on the individual for not being happy or content where they are, and most of the time it's probably true. But I think there are some times in your life where you are punished for being 100% honest in yourself. People tell you you are the problem and you think you are in the wrong for feeling how you feel. Every day I'm learning to be true to myself and say what I feel needs to be said. And I know if that I continue like this, I will eventually, like Jimmy Butler, find my own Heat culture, my people. If you're watching this on April 17th, then Jimmy Butler is playing today against the 76ers for their spot in the NBA playoffs. Win or lose, I will always be rooting for Jimmy Buckets, and you too. I'll see you tomorrow.